Hello. So this video, as you can probably tell by the title and possibly by the fact that I have the Hercules book behind me, a book of mythology and a stuffed Cerberus that is actually Fluffy from Harry Potter, but it's a Cerberus and Cerberus is in this movie. We are going to be talking about Hercules. That came out in 1997. My dad actually, when we watched the movie, my dad actually remarked, I think I remember your mom and I taking you to see this in theaters, and I'm like, well, it would have been about five, so yeah, I can kind of, maybe, well, I didn't really like recollect that or not, but yeah, I can see you and mom taking me to see the, taking me to see this in theaters. I also have my Megara shirt. Um, Link below, blah blah blah. Um, I don't know if this was clear. I have no connection to the person that makes these. I just think they're really nice shirts and everything, along with like the Doctor Who TARDIS Disney ones. No connection. I just, I like the shirts. I know where they come from. I'll put them in the links if I can find them. Um, so as I said, Hercules, 1997, was kind of the first Disney movie based around a mythology as opposed to like a fairy tale or like an actual book like Alice in Wonderland or Peter Pan or, the fairy tales like Cinderella, Snow White, blah, 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 blah. Uh, the dog's here. We'll see how long he sticks around. So that's where that came from. And of course, the Disney version of Hercules is a bit more family friendly than the actual mythology because I'll go over some of the differences between the actual mythology and the movie after I talk about the original movie. And, because there's quite a few differences that they throw in. That I understand doing that for like a more family friendly version of it, but, they still got to be careful with it. Um, so the movie opens with us leading through this hall full of different, sculptures, artifacts, statues, pots, and everything that are covered in, legends and stories and everything from Greek mythology. And I love the fact that the first part of the movie is narrated by Charlton Heston, and like it goes like this, and the greatest of all of these heroes was the mighty Hercules. And then we meet the Muses. And they're funny, goddesses of the arts and proclaimers of heroes is what they're referred to as, which is kind of what the Muses were the goddesses of the arts in Greek mythology. They each had their own role, though I don't think there were five. I think in actual mythology there were like nine muses, I think. But they have five here, and that works fine. And then I love the fact that basically the transition of it is, the muses are going to tell you the story instead of Charlton Heston, who is, Moses and this, this irreverent figure and everything, and like Hollywood and everything. And it's like the muses are going to tell the story, and Charlton Heston is just like, "You go, girl." I'm like, okay, I like that. That's funny. That was just one of my favorite jokes at the beginning of the movie. Then we're introduced to the basic idea of the gods and goddesses. The world was in such chaos and everything back when it was first created. The Titans were running around, the ice one, the fire one, the lava one, the earth one, the wind one, and then the Cyclops. And they were all, causing so much trouble and everything. And then Zeus came along. He, defeated them, locked them away. And, so he's now, the king of gods, ruler of everything. If you know Greek mythology, this is not exactly how it worked, but we're introduced to Olympus. Zeus is proclaimed king, and now he has Olympus, which is the amazing city on top of Mount Olympus, where the gods live. It's made of clouds, and it's beautiful, and I would personally love to live on Mount Olympus. But we're introduced to Zeus and Hera and their son Hercules, who is a little baby at this point in time. It's kind of like his, I would say it's probably like the equivalent of like his christening or something along those lines. So he's still, a little baby and everything, but, the gods are celebrating his birth. And Hercules gets his little flying horse Pegasus that his father makes for him out of clouds. We see a bunch of the other gods and goddesses there at the party. There's Aphrodite, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Apollo, Ares, Demeter, Artemis, Athena, all these other ones. Hermes is there running around. Just, all the gods and goddesses kind of having fun and relaxing and just, celebrating, Zeus and Hera and, Hercules and such. And it's like, I love one of the moments where it's like, Hercules just does something very cute, and then like all of the gods are just like, "Aww," and like even Ares, who's like the god of war and destruction and everything, it's just like, "Aww." I just always found that hilarious. Even as a kid, I'm like, yeah, no, that was funny. Um, and Zeus and Hercules, Zeus and Hera are just fawning over Hercules, and we see even as a baby, Hercules has great strength, considering he's able to lift his father above his head, even as a baby. And then we are introduced to our villain for the movie, who is Hades, Lord of the Dead. Hi, how you doing? And he's in the movie, they kind of move it around a little bit. I think he's made to be the younger brother out of Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. Hades is now made out to be the younger brother, as opposed to in mythology where Hades is actually the oldest of the three boys, the oldest god out of the original six for Zeus, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, and Hestia. Is actually Hestia is the eldest out of all of them, but Hades was the oldest boy, and in this case they kind of flip it around a little bit, and Zeus is actually the older one, and he's the one that's king. And then Hades is king of the underworld, and Poseidon is god of the sea. Not much of this has gone over in the actual movie itself. It's a little bit more explored in the animated series, which I will talk about a little bit. Hades is there, and Hades and Zeus seems to very much like Hades, but Hades just doesn't care for Zeus, doesn't care for the fact of all the other gods get to live up on Mount Olympus and lounge around while he's stuck down in the underworld. Everything's a little dark, a little gloomy, and as always, full of dead people. Yes, I will do quotes throughout this movie because I was doing quotes while I was watching the movie yesterday. Quotes and singing along, but you won't have to hear me singing, so that's probably a good thing. But Hades does not like Hercules because, Hercules is just this another piece that he has to deal with at some point in time if he wants to take over Mount Olympus. So then, we get, Hades transitions back into the underworld, and we get kind of the Muses singing again. The gospel truth is their song that they keep singing throughout the course of the first part of the movie to set up the movie. We see Cerberus in the background. We see Hades on the, the river of the dead, the river Styx. We see some of this illusion of the underworld. And Hades has his two minions, Pain and Panic. Pain is the bluish purple one, or the purplish one, and then Panic is the blue one. They're very much indicative of their characters. One of them likes to inflict pain, the other one panics all the time. And they're Hades' just little henchmen and everything. And then Hades goes and he sees the three fates that are coming to visit him. And of course, in Greek mythology, the three fates are three old women who their job is one of them is to spin the thread of life. One of them is to measure it. And then when it's time for a mortal or a being to die, then the third one, who has the scissors, is to cut the thread. And that signifies that the mortal has now died, or the being has now died. We see them doing this when we're first introduced to them, and the fates have this, this eyeball that they share. If I remember correctly from my Greek mythology, the three fates, they kind of, for these versions that are in the movie, I think they slightly alter them a little bit. There's still the three fates, and they still have the three names, but if I remember correctly, there was a different set of three witches in Greek and Roman mythology that had one eye that they all shared between them. And at one point, one of the heroes, I think it was Perseus. I could be wrong on that one. But Perseus was the one that had to get their eye and then get information from them, and then he gave them back their eye. And then the fates didn't necessarily have the eye, but they still spun the threads and measured them and cut them, and that was the same. But in Greek, in the movie, they have the three fates, and they have the ability to see the past, the present, and the future, respectively. And Hades wants them to tell him how he can find a way to beat Zeus. And, he kind of, he coerces it out of them. He basically compliments them until they give him the answer that he's looking for. And they tell him, in 18 years precisely, the planets will align ever so nicely. And, time lag, this is when you can release the Titans, and then you can get them to defeat Zeus, and then you can take over Mount Olympus. One hitch in the plan: if Hercules fights, you will fail. And the fates disappear, and this makes makes Hades very angry. Which, I mean, like, okay, I don't quite get what the planets having to align does with anything, but we kind of see this a little bit later that it kind of affects it. And side note, they only show 6 planets when they're doing this, because at the time when Hercules takes place, ancient Greece time, they only knew about 6 planets, as opposed to the 8 or 9 that we had when the movie was made, and now 8 because Pluto was demoted. I have my own issue with that, but that'll be for a different video. But and then Hades is like, how can I get around this? So he's like, well, if he fights, then I lose, so I have to get him out of the fight. And if I kill Hercules, then I don't have to worry about it. So he has pain and panic. He gives him this potion that is designed to turn a immortal mortal. I do believe this may have been something that was actually in Greek mythology. I think so, because there was the whole Achilles, if his mother dipped him in the river Styx when he was a baby and held him by his heels, and therefore he's immortal except for his heels, and he's invincible except if he gets hit in his heel, then he'll die. And I do think that there was maybe an opposite thing to that, which is, I think, is what Hades is referencing, where if it's a mortal drinks, or if a immortal drinks this potion, then they are then rendered mortal and therefore killable. We don't get that much explanation. It's, Pain and Panic go to Olympus, they kidnap Hercules. Zeus and Hera and Pegasus freak out, which I don't blame them. Zeus and Hera just had their baby taken away from him, and Pegasus, probably spends a little while blaming himself for the fact that he wasn't able to protect the baby that he was supposed to take care of. And Pain and Panic take Hercules down to the surface of, down to Earth, and they then, feed him the formula, and it, drains away his immortality. And then there's they're supposed to he's supposed to drink every last drop, and then after that, then they can kill him. This is of course stopped because a man and a woman happen along, and they scare off Pain and Panic, and Hercules does not end up drinking every last drop. So he still has his godlike strength, as they're proclaimed. And this man and this older man and older woman, or middle-aged man and woman, find him, and they're like, Amphitryon is the man, and Alcmene is the woman, and they take baby Hercules. And Hercules has this medallion that he wears around his neck that has the symbol of the gods on it, and then Hercules written on the back. I'm like, okay, so you gave your son a dog collar, but whatever. But so Amphitryon and Alcmene take in Hercules. Pain and Panic kind of try to attack first. They turn into 2 snakes, which is a reference to when Hercules was a baby in the actual mythology. He was, Hera sent 2 snakes to hurt him, and he, beat up the snakes and killed them. And this, he just kind of, they get twisted up and then they get thrown away. And then Pain and Panic are like, Hades is going to kill us if he ever finds out about this. And they're like, if he finds out about this. So then, Pain and Panic go off, and Hercules is then raised by Alcmene and Amphitryon. And he's very loved, and his parents adore him and everything. And Zeus and Hera, they're very sad, but they have to watch Hercules grow up from afar. So that's not fun on their part, but Hercules is still very much in a loving home. He gets stronger and stronger, and then we cut to several years later. I think Hercules is supposed to be about 16 here, and he's kind of a little bit of a gangly youth, but he's still very strong. And he unfortunately ends up causing a bit of a problem in the marketplace where his father took him, where his parents seemed to grow hay, and they were taking the hay or the straw to the marketplace to sell it. And unfortunately, Hercules' strength doesn't know his own strength, destroys a lot of stuff around him. And unfortunately, a lot of people kind of know that Hercules has this problem. They don't know that he's, like a demigod. They don't know this, but, he just has this crazy amount of strength, and they kind of, ostracize him for it. So, the kids don't want to play with him. The adults blame him for everything. And, Hercules, just is worried. It's like, I don't fit in. I have no idea where I don't know where I belong. And then we get the song, Go the Distance, which is where Hercules is singing about, I just want to find this place where I belong, where, where there's, where everyone, where I'm welcome, where I feel like I'm home, where I'm not this freak. And, and then his parents, Alcmene and Amphitryon, explained to him that when you were a baby, we found you when you were a baby, and you had this around your neck, and it's the pendant that has, Zeus's symbol on the back. And they're like, we found this with you, and it's a symbol of the gods. And Hercules is like, if I go to the Temple of Zeus, then maybe he can explain to me what this is about. And like, he gets very excited, but then he looks back at his parents, and they're like, they look kind of sad. I mean, like, they're happy that maybe Hercules can now find his place in the world, but they're still sad because, they're the ones that raised him. They're the ones that love him just like a regular mother and just like his, birth parents. And he even says to them, he basically says, you're still going to be my parents. You're still the ones who raised me. I'm still going to love you. This is still going to be my home. And I do like that they put that in there because, kid not raised by their actual parents, he still loves his birth parents, and they loved him just as much as any parents. And then Hercules then travels and get a reprise of Go the Distance, and he travels to the Temple of Zeus, which is an actual place in Rome, or not Rome. Well, it was like the Temple of Jupiter in Rome, but it was the Temple of Zeus in Greece. And Hercules goes there, and there's this giant statue of Zeus, which was one of the actual 7 wonders of the ancient world. And, Hercules goes there, and he's like, can you, talking to the statue of, well, what can you tell me, can you answer my questions and everything? And the statue, lightning comes in, statue comes to life, and it's just like, my baby. It's just like, oh god. And Hercules kind of freaks out, but then Zeus kind of calms him down, and he explains, no, I'm your father. Hercules, what the frick? And he's like, Hercules is like this big, and like Zeus in like the statue's palm. And like, Zeus explains to him, you were taken from your mother and I when you were a baby, and we didn't abandon you. We you were kidnapped, and we watched, and we've been waiting for when you show up again. And we're so kind of proud of what you've become so far. But and he's like, and Hercules is like, well, then how can I come back? And he's like, well, you have to prove yourself a true hero. And Hercules is like, okay, I can do that. How do I do that? And he's like, well, you have to go and find this guy whose name is Philoctetes. He's the trainer of heroes. Find him, he can train you to be a hero, and you can become a true hero and come back to Mount Olympus to be with your mother and I. And Hercules is like, okay, I can do that. And Zeus reunites Hercules with Pegasus, who is now, a big, flying horse and everything, and they're happy to be reunited and everything. And Hercules and Pegasus fly off. Pegasus probably has been watching, of course, Hercules as he grew up and everything, so that's not a problem. Pegasus probably missed Hercules as well. Pegasus in the actual mythology of Greek mythology comes from a very different story that doesn't actually involve Hercules. If I remember correctly, he was like, when I think it was Perseus, it was the one that killed Medusa. I think it was either Perseus or Theseus. I don't remember exactly. No, it was Theseus that killed the Minotaur. It was Perseus that killed the killed Medusa. Yeah, Perseus sliced off Medusa's head, and then out of the body of Medusa is what came to be Pegasus. So there's a bit of a problem with that, but yeah, sure, whatever. And, so different mythologies there, or different stories mixing, but I'm okay with this for the movie. It still makes it entertaining. Hercules and, Pegasus fly off. They go to the island where, Philoctetes lives, and they find Philoctetes, who is a satyr. And the satyr has an eye on Pretty Woman because he likes to watch nymphs and, you know, everything like that. So, you know, that's fun for that. And, you know, Zeus, or, you know, Hercules explains to Phil, you know, I need you to train me so I can be a hero and go rejoin my father on Mount Olympus and everything. And, like, Phil goes through this whole kind of monologue of, you know, I've trained all these heroes and everything, you know, Odysseus, Perseus, Theseus, you know, blah, 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 Aladiuses, you know, Jason, the Argonauts, you know, all this stuff. Which is a reference to, there was a, I think it was not a satyr, it was a centaur that trained some different heroes throughout the course of Greek mythology. But, you know, so they change it up a little bit. You know, not all of these heroes, because they all were spanned over quite a bit of time. Because if I remember correctly, Hercules is actually, in the actual Greek mythology, Hercules was actually a descendant of Perseus and Andromeda. So, you know, there's a difference there in the mythology. And, like, you know, Jason and the Argonauts in the actual mythology, Hercules sailed on the Argo with Jason and the Argonauts at one point, but in this case, you know, this is long past after that and everything. So, yeah, it's just a lot of references to different Greek heroes and everything, and Achilles and all that. And Phil is just like, no. I'm retired. I'm not training any more heroes. You know, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And Hercules tries to convince him and everything. And, you know, Phil kind of acquiesces, meaning he gets struck with a thunderbolt by Zeus. And he's like, fine, sure, I'll train him, whatever. And we get the song One Last Hope, which is, you know, Zeus kind of or not Zeus, Philatides, singing about, you know, I got one last shot at this, one last hope, one last attempt at, you know, getting this kid, you know, trained up and everything. And he was like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And, you know, so we go through the whole training montage, you know, training on the beach, Hercules, you know, having problems, slowly getting better. And then, you know, it works its way through, and then, you know, Hercules is, you know, all grown up, and probably about 2 years-ish later, and he's all, you know, buff and everything, and, you know, he goes through the last test or whatever that Phil wanted him to go through to then prove that he was a hero, ready to be a hero. And, you know, it's kind of implied that Hercules hasn't been leaving the island for a while, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's gone back and visited his parents, and, you know, this is kind of contradicted in the animated series, and we'll talk about the animated series after I talk about the original movie. But, you know, then Hades, or, you know, Hercules and Phil and Pegasus, you know, Hercules wants to go and start proving himself that he's a hero. So Phil takes him to, I think Phil is taking him to Thebes, and on the way to Thebes, they come across a woman, a damsel who is in distress, by a centaur. And, you know, the woman is Megara. Hercules stands up for her, fights the centaur Nessus, which is a reference to just one of the various times in Greek mythology where Hercules met one of his wives. He saved her from a centaur named Nessus, so this is a reference to that. There's something else in the mythology that I'll go over a bit after I finish the movie. And so, you know, he defeats that, and Megara, I just love her line, like her introduction is, yes, I'm a damsel, yes, I'm in distress, I can take care of myself, bye. And, you know, so she's not impressed by Hercules at all. And, you know, Hercules still, you know, defeats Nessus, saves Meg, and, you know, she kind of flirts with him a little bit, and she's like, no, you know, I'm an independent woman, I can, you know, do everything myself, you know, blah, you know, she's very sarcastic and very witty and everything. And definitely one of my favorite Disney heroines. As you've probably deduced from a lot of the movies, I have a lot of favorite Disney heroines, and I would have been perfectly fine if in Kingdom Hearts, if they ever made Meg, she wasn't a Princess of Heart, but I would have been perfectly fine if, like, because, like, later on in, like, Kingdom Hearts 3, they have, like, Princesses of Light. I would have been perfectly fine if Meg was, like, a Princess of Light, but they don't do that. There is in Kingdom Hearts, and I will talk about that, but that's not yet. But, you know, Hercules and her kind of flirt a little bit, and she leaves, and Hercules and Phil make their way to, you know, start flying to Thebes. And then we have Meg goes into the forest, and we find out that, oh, she actually works for Hades. You know, we find out a little bit later that was, you know, she had been in love with someone, and he was either dying or dead, and she, made a deal with Hades to, sell her soul to him to save her boyfriend's life. But then, the guy that she had done this for, fell in love with someone else and ran off with her instead, as opposed to Meg. And, so Meg's brokenhearted, and Meg does not have a high opinion of men at this point in time in her life. And, Hades kind of uses that to his own, volition, but he finds out that Meg was saved by Hercules. And then Pain and Panic freak out because they're like, oh, frick. Yeah, that kid we were supposed to kill. He's not dead. And, Hades gets very angry about this and, blows up the forest around them. And then he's like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're still going to find a way to kill Hercules because he's mortal. He's strong, but he's mortal, which means he can still die. And, so Hades comes up with this plan. Hercules and Phil and Pegasus go to Thebes, which is kind of supposed to be a bit of a reference to like New York and everything. But, given that, 2020, there's like a scene in this that is very much like 2020 reminiscent, where it's just like all these different people sitting around the water fountain or whatever, talking about like all the problems. And it's just like, now were the fires before or after the earthquake? No, they were after the earthquake, I remember, but before the flood. And it's just like, don't even get me started on the crime rate. All we need now is a plague of locusts. Locust shows up, they all freak out. That's it. I'm moving to Sparta. So it's just like all this problems and everything that they're having, and it's just like plague, wildfires, hurricanes, earthquakes. Take your pick. We had that kind of last year as a whole thing. These guys have it a lot worse, I guess. Plus, there's just like lots of other crime rates and everything. And Hercules tries to explain to them, well, I'm a hero and I'm here to make things better. They're like, no, you're just you claim to be a hero, you're not a hero, you haven't done anything heroic, you haven't saved a town, you haven't stopped a natural disaster. And then Meg comes rushing in, she's like, oh, Hercules, there's like this big problem, these kids playing in a gorge, boulder, rock slide, trapped. So Hercules flies off with Meg. Meg does not like heights, and Pegasus enjoys torturing Meg. So they head off that way, and everybody else is following them along with Phil. And, they get to this gorge valley thing where there was this rock slide, and there's two kids that are trapped underneath the rocks. And Hercules, uses his strength, lifts giant boulder, frees kids. Kids run off. We find out that the kids are actually, Pain and Panic. And this is a trap by Hades. And out comes the Hydra. And Hercules then proceeds to, get swallowed by the Hydra. Slices off its one head. Everybody thinks he's a hero. Which, they're happy about this. He was like, okay, well, they kind of clapped for him when he like moved the boulder. He's like, okay, he's strong. Okay, we'll give him that. And then he, sliced off the Hydra's head from inside. So it was like, okay, well, that was good. And then, the Hydra gets back up and 3 more heads pop out. And Hercules proceeds to slice, grow, over and over and over again until there's like tons and tons of Hydra heads staring down at him. And it's just, it's like everybody is just like, oh my god, like freaking out. And, Phil is just like, okay, no more slicing of the heads. And Hercules and Pegasus kind of have to work together, and then they do end up killing the Hydra. They they cause another rock slide by Hercules, hitting a mountain or hitting the side of a cliff, and it all covers the Hydra and crushes the Hydra. And, because everybody thought Hercules died in the process, they're still happy, they're still like, well, the Hydra's dead, but, is Hercules still alive? And, Phil kind of thinks that Hercules is still alive, and, Hades and Hades and Pain and Panic are like, Hades is just like, oh, yeah, okay, fine, good, he's dead. And then Hercules, the Hydra's claw opens and Hercules pops out. And he's fine. A little roughed up, but fine. The whole crowd just yay! They're all just happy that he's alive and happy that the Hydra's dead. And it was like probably one of the most heroic things they've seen in a while. They knew about all of Phil's other heroes that he had done, that he had, trained and everything, and they kind of, mock Phil for that. kind of starts changing now. Uh, and, Hades is angry because Hercules didn't die. And Meg is just like, okay, yeah, no, that was impressive. Fighting the Hydra and everything and surviving. And, the Hercules is now, claimed a hero by the people. And then, of course, we get the song Zero to Hero, which is, just a fun song. And, I mean, like, there's a lot of fun songs in this. And, it's just like, Hercules is growing and growing and growing. And we see him doing all these other tasks and everything during the music, during the song and everything, becoming more famous, taking care of his parents, fighting all these other monsters and beasts and everything. And, stopping other natural disasters and like all this other stuff that he does. And, what ends up happening is, he's, proclaimed a hero and he's made rich and famous and everything. And, we get like all the merchandising and everything that we do and that they do in the movie and everything that you do with like athletes today. They did that with them. Although I think if I remember correctly, back in like the days of like the Colosseum and the gladiators and everything in Rome, that there were, like the gladiators, like the really, really popular ones actually did kind of do something along the lines of endorsements. I like this type of meat or this type of alcohol or whatever the case is, or, oh, I like this place and everything. It wasn't like as, big as what we do today with like sponsorships, but it was still, kind of, they did kind of that thing for the very popular gladiators. So this is kind of a little bit like that where it's, it's like a sports hero, they do this and everything. And, everybody, buys their shoes or whatever. And, so they do all that and everything. And we have Hades and Meg talking, and, Hades is extremely angry because, like, everything that he throws at Hercules just keeps getting, destroyed and destroyed and destroyed. Trapped, killed, disemboweled, whatever the case may be. And Hercules just goes becoming greater and greater and greater. And Hades is running out of time before the planets align. And, so he's just getting very, very frustrated with this. And, Panic couldn't kill him as a baby. None of the monsters he sent after Hercules can kill him. So he looks at Meg and he's like, if you get me Hercules' weakness and help me beat him, I will free you from your contract. Your soul will no longer be mine, blah, 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 blah. And she's very adamant against it, but he, bribes her with, your freedom if you do this for me. And she kind of agrees. And, then we cut to, Hercules had been to talk to his father, been to talk to the statue of Zeus and everything. Like, he's telling him all this stuff that he's done. He grappled with the Gorgon, wrestled the Minotaur, all this stuff. And he's like, Zeus is like so proud of him and he's everything. And Hercules thinks that this means that he's a true hero. And Zeus is like, no, you're doing really good, but you're not there yet. You're not a true hero. And, Hercules' answer was like, I know, I've done all this stuff and everything. I'm an action figure. Hey, good butt on, it's a good button on a joke, so it works. And Zeus is like, I know, but you're not quite fully there yet, being a true hero. And this makes Hercules quite depressed and everything. And the next day we have, he's posing for this portrait on a pot. And, Phil's going all this list of other things that Hercules has to do. And Hercules just kind of, freaks out about, what's the point of all of this? And he's like, what's the point in me doing all of this stuff if it hasn't made me a true hero yet? Because his goal, the reason he wanted to become a true hero was so that way he could go to Olympus and be with his parents, be with, Zeus and Hera. It's not like he neglects, Alcmene and Amphitryon. He gave them a much bigger house and everything. So, and probably servants and everything. So they're perfectly taken care of. And such. So it's like Hercules did take care of them and he does love them, but he wants to be able to go to Olympus and be with his birth parents as well. So he can actually get to know them. I'm pretty sure at some point, somewhere in Greece, there was probably a temple to Hera, but apparently Hercules never went there. Zeus and Hera, of course, want Hercules to be able to come home. But, to fully be able to live on Olympus, he has to become a god. And, to become a true hero. to be able to do that. That just hasn't happened yet. And, so Hercules is just rather depressed about this. And Phil kind of cheers him up. He's like, I know that you're going to become a true hero. I can feel it in these, stubby bull legs of mine. And, that kind of cheers Hercules up. And then in come the fangirls. Oh, God. And Hercules is like terrified of the fangirls, and Phil leads them away and everything to try tricks them and everything. And then Megara is there, and she tells Herc, well, why don't you play hooky with me? You seem very stressed. Why don't you come and play hooky with me this afternoon, and we can just relax and everything. And Herc kind of falls for it and everything. I mean, Herc kind of liked Megara from the beginning anyway. But so they go and they have this nice day of just, I think they go and see a play. I think they go to eat at a restaurant, all this fun stuff that they do. And then they end up in this beautiful garden, which is kind of a reference because it's like the same place in in Aladdin where like Aladdin and Jasmine kind of like flew around. So it's like that same area. And so they do that way, but it's still kind of, it's like this nice garden and everything. And, Meg kind of flirts with him and everything. And, she's like, well, do you have any weaknesses? And he's like, no, I don't have any weaknesses. And, we can quite clearly see that he's, his weakness is Meg, is, someone that he cares about. I'm pretty sure Hades could have gotten a lot of the same result by going after like, Amphitryon and Alcmene, or even Phil, in regards to using them as weaknesses against, Hercules. And Meg is kind of having this realization of, maybe Hercules isn't quite like, the other guys that she's dated, that she's known, that he's better, that he's different. And I'm like, I mean, if he's better or different from the other guys that you've dated, then that's good. Considering the last one left you after you saved his life. But like, Phil shows up and kind of drags Hercules away. And then we get, the song that is one of my favorite song in Hercules, which is, I Won't Say I'm in Love, which is Meg's song. And she has the Muses there singing with her. Cause like her side of the argument in the song is like, nope, I won't say I'm in love. I won't say any of that. Nope. It's nope. And the Muses are just like, no, come on, girl. No, you like him. Kind of like thing. And they're just having fun with that. And it's a fun song. And, we get like the dancing statues from like the Muses coming to life. And Megara kind of finally, Meg finally admitting that, yeah, okay, I won't, out loud, I won't admit that I love him. But yeah, I love him. Which is just like this fun song that I love the song. And, so she's accepted that she's in love with Hercules. And then Hades shows up. Yeah. Hades shows up. And Phil had gotten knocked off of Pegasus and they were flying away. And Hercules, and Phil kind of sees Meg and Hades talking. And Phil is like, oh, this is not good, because he hears them talking about killing Hercules. So he goes off to go and find Hercules at where they're training, at like their gym area, Coliseum, whatever that they train at and probably live at. But like Meg is like, no, I'm not gonna help you kill him. I'm not gonna help you stop him. He's, he's good, he's decent, he's kind and everything. And admittedly, Hades is quite sassy in the role. I do like the way that they have the dynamic between Meg and Hades. I do enjoy that dynamic. But he figures out that, she's like, he has no weaknesses. He's gonna stop you. You can't defeat him. And he looks at her and he's like, oh, I think he's got a weakness. And that would be you. And, he uses Meg as leverage. Then we cut back to the stables, or, well, the Coliseum type area where Hercules is still training at the time. And, Pegasus gets lured away by this female Pegasus that's actually Pain and Panic that, like, tied him up. Phil and Hercules have this argument because, Phil tries to tell Hercules that, no, Meg is not on your side. Meg is bad. Meg is causing problems. You can't trust her. She's not good for you. Blah, 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 blah. And Hercules, of course, gets very angry about this. And him and Phil fight. And Hercules tells Phil, well, I don't need you. I don't need anyone. And so Phil leaves. He's going to head back home. So, they have that whole argument, which is actually kind of a hard argument to watch, in all honesty. Because, Phil and Hercules are very good friends at this point in time. And, Hercules, Phil makes the comment of, I thought you were going to be the all-time champ, the best hero and everything. Not the all-time chump. And then he leaves. And then, Pegasus gets drawn off and tied up by pain and panic. And then we have Hades shows up. And he's, telling Hercules, hey, blah, 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 blah. I've got all, hey, I got, I want to make this deal for you. I got these plans I got to do. And I was going to make this deal with you that if you do this for me, give up your strength for 24 hours, the next 24 hours, then, then I'll, then, you can have it back and be normal for a day and everything. And then we're good. And he's like, and Hercules is basically like, why would I do that? And then Hades is like, well, you see, I got this leverage you might want to know about. And Meg appears, chained up. And Hercules is like, yeah, I'll make that deal with you. And he makes the deal with Hades, gets his, his strength taken away, so he's, immortal and everything. And unfortunately, then Hades reveals that Meg had been working for him all along because he just wants to break Hercules even more and break Meg. The clause in the contract is that Hercules says I was like, but you have to swear that Meg won't get hurt, and Hades is like, fine. Meg is safe, otherwise you get your strength right back, yada yada. And that's what the crux of the deal is that Hercules loses his strength for the next 24 hours. Unless Meg gets hurt, which of course, if you've seen the movie, you know what's going to happen. But then, Hades, then, because all the planets align, he leaves, goes and frees all the Titans, and they start causing trouble all over the, trouble in the area. And, the ice one, the lava one, the stone one, and the wind one all head toward Olympus. And then he sends the Cyclops to go to Thebes to try to kill Hercules. Hercules goes to fight the Cyclops. The other Titans go and they start fighting on Olympus. They start, capturing the gods, fighting with Zeus. They get, taken over, and Hades is, there to revel in it and to, now, he's now the ruler of Olympus. Zeus is getting trapped and everything. And the Cyclops goes to Thebes, and where it starts fighting Hercules. And, even though Hercules is, still, he's weakened, he doesn't have his god strength or his god, resistance. I mean, he's not immortal or anything like that when he didn't have that, but he was a little more durable, I would say. And, so he, is trying to fight the Cyclops anyway and protect the civilians, because that's still what he is. He's still a hero. That is his job. And it's what he wanted to do anyway. And Meg sees that Hercules is getting hurt, and she finds Pegasus and unties him, and they go and find Phil. And, Phil's ready to get on this boat to go, Phil's ready to get on this boat to go home. Meg stops him and explains it, it's like, yes, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. But if you don't help Hercules now, he's going to die. And, Phil goes back with her. They fly back to Thebes. Hercules is still getting beat up by the Cyclops, who's just kind of toying with Hercules at this point in time. And in all honesty, if the Cyclops had just sat on Hercules, the movie would have had a very different ending, but he didn't. Hercules, is, fighting the Cyclops, and it's, not going too well for Hercules. Phil shows up, and he's, trying to convince Hercules, he's like, Hercules is like, he's kind of broken at this point in time. He's like, you said, you were right, Phil, dreams are for rookies and everything, looking at Meg and thinking about, thinking that, love and everything that I felt for you was real and everything, or it was real, but then you broke my heart. you know, you helped Hades do that and everything. And, you know, Phil's like, no. You have, you know, no, giving up is for rookies. You have to keep trying. You know, you have to keep going. And, you know, I think Phil kind of admits a little bit of, you know, being wrong and everything. You know, so they, you know, both of them kind of admit to being wrong. And then, you know, Hercules ends up, you know, kind of defeating the Cyclops with brain over brawn. He, you know, grabs a, you know, a burning torch and he, you know, throws it in the Cyclops' eye. And then he, you know, ties rope around the Cyclops' legs and the Cyclops falls off the cliffs where it dies. But there was, you know, so Hercules still beats the Cyclops without his strength, which proves that he can still be a hero even without his strength. And then there's this pillar that's going to fall on Hercules, and Meg pushes Hercules out of the way and is, you know, crushed, you know, hurt by the pillar. And, you know, that of course breaks Hades' deal because Meg got hurt. So, you know, Hercules lifts the pillar and he gets his strength back. And, you know, Meg is very badly hurt, but she's like, you have to go and stop Hades. And he's like, but, you know, but why did you save me? Why did you do that? And she's like, because people do crazy things when they're in love. And, you know, Hercules, you know, Phil's like, I'll stay here. I'll keep an eye on her. You go. And, you know, Hercules and Pegasus fly off towards Olympus, where they proceed to free the gods, free Zeus, fight the Titans, stop Hades, you know, save Olympus. You know, just all that fun stuff, you know, the whole, you know, the big kind of climactic battle that happens there, which in all honesty really, you know, I mean, like the whole part of the battle involves the Cyclops and Hercules and all of that, but still. And then Hercules and, you know, Hercules, you know, defeats Hades and all of that. And Hades is leaving. He's like, yeah, but I got a consolation prize waiting for me. And then Hercules is rushing back to go and get back to Meg. And, you know, we see the scene of the fates. You know, they're measuring out Meg's, you know, string of life, and they, you know, and we see it, you know, cut, and Meg dies, and Hercules didn't get back there in time, and, you know, so he's, you know, very upset about this. You know, he saved Olympus, saved the gods, and everything, kind of saved the world, but he couldn't save Meg. So therefore, we have where Hercules, you know, feels like, you know, there's nothing you can do. And he's like, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes, I can. And Hercules goes down to the underworld. And he, you know, Hades is so angry at this point. I mean, you know, we tripped at the finish line. We were so close. And then Hercules shows up and he bursts in riding Cerberus. And Hades is like, oh, you know, what are you doing here? And, you know, he's got Meg and everything. And he, like, shows Hercules where Meg is in this, you know, pool of swirling souls. And he's like, yeah, if, you know, and Hercules, you know, touches it and, like, you know, wrinkles his hands and ages them. And he's like, and you know, Hades is like, well, you know, this is where she is and everything. And Hercules is like, what if I make a deal with you? Me in exchange for her. And, you know, kind of rushes Hades in the deal. And, you know, because Hades kind of did the same thing to him earlier, but he rushes Hades in the deal, and Hades was like, yeah, fine. You get her out, she goes, you stay. Hercules dives in, ready to swim through the swirling vortex of souls to get to Meg. And Hades is like, yeah, but, you know, before you, you know, he's like, but if, you know, you'll be dead before you can get to her. And, you know, we watch Hercules as he's swimming, and he's aging. And we have the three fates getting ready to, you know, cut Hercules' thread, showing that he is still mortal. And, you know, it's kind of, you know, the climactic moment of we see Hercules, you know, the old version of, you know, the very older version of Hercules, you know, almost getting to Meg's hand. And then we see the fates ready to, and, you know, it won't cut because now it's told, you know, the thread has turned gold and it won't cut. So they're like, what is wrong with this? Why won't it cut? And, you know, and then we see Hercules come out of the pond, out of the swirling vortex of souls with Meg's soul, and he's glowing like the sun because his, you know, more immortality has been restored to him. And, you know, he leaves after he punches Hades into the, you know, swirling vortex of souls, where the souls start attacking Hades. And, Hercules then makes his way back to where Meg is, where Meg and Phil, and I think Pegasus is there too. And, he, puts Meg's soul back in her body. And we have, Phil and Hercules and Pegasus are kind of waiting for Meg to wake up. And she does. And then, Hercules and Meg are, of course, reunited at this point in time. And then, all of them are swept off to Olympus because, all the gods, Zeus and Hera and the rest of the gods are there to welcome them to Olympus because they explain that, the true, a hero's true measure is in the size of his heart. Not not his strength, but the strength of his heart, what he's willing to do. And, Hera explains, you became a true hero when you were willing to give your life to rescue this young woman. And, it's not, it wasn't a feat of strength, of physical strength. It was, strength of your heart, which, is sometimes a harder thing to do. It's one thing to be physically strong and save people. It's another thing to be, willing to risk your mortality to save someone. There's a difference there. And so, Hades or Hercules now has, now he can come back. He can be, he can live on Olympus and everything. And, Meg is, it's like, you're going to be fine here. And she's, she's ready to leave. And Hercules is being hugged and welcomed by his mother and by the rest of the gods. And he turns and he sees Meg, at the bottom of these, glorious steps leading into Olympus. And she's getting ready to, leave. I'm like, I don't think you're going to be able to walk down Olympus very well, but maybe a cloud can take you back down. I don't know. Zeus and Hera seem nice enough. Like, they're like, yes, if you're not going to stay here, then, take this cloud and ride back down to Earth so you're safe. And, like, Phil and Pegasus followed them. And, so they're doing that and everything, but Hercules turns and he goes back down and he takes Meg's hand. And he's like, as much as I wanted to come here and be here on Olympus and be with you, a life without Meg, even an immortal life, is empty. And, he makes a decision of, I wish to stay on Earth with her. Which, Zeus and Hera seem a little surprised about, but they're perfectly fine with, because it means Hercules gets to be happy, and, and he gives up his immortality in order to be with Meg. Which is very sweet. And, they kiss. I mean, I don't think it's the first time they've kissed, but they kiss. No, I think that is the first time that they kiss. I think. But they kiss, and then, then we get the whole song, A Star is Born, which is like the end credits song, and we get, all the gods singing along, and, the Muses are there, and we get, for Hermes playing and everything, and all of them are happy. And then, Hercules and Meg and Pegasus and Phil go back down to Earth, where they go back to Thebes, where, everybody in Thebes, Hercules' parents, Alcmene and Amphitryon are there, and then all these other citizens that we've been introduced to are there, and, like, they're all happy and everything, because, Hercules saved their town, Hercules saved Thebes, and he also saved Olympus, and he's a real hero. And then we see Zeus rearranging the stars and making a constellation of Hercules, which, Phil's dream was to, train a hero so great that the gods would hang a picture of them in the stars. And then, that when everybody would look at it, they would go, that's Phil's boy, which happens, Hercules gets his constellation, and, then that results in, now Phil, all the, that's Phil's boy and everything. So Phil gets that, and, Hercules and Meg are happy, and Pegasus is happy, and, Zeus and the other gods are happy, and Hades is trapped in a swirling vortex of souls for however amount of time. That's the end of the movie. We get the end credits song and everything. So we have Tate Donovan as Hercules, as the grown-up version of Hercules. Then we have Josh Keaton provided the voice for the younger Hercules. Then we have Danny DeVito, of course, as Philatides, as Phil. James Woods as Hades. Susan Egan as Meg, who I love her. She's been in several Miyazaki movies. We have Frank Welker as Pegasus, who's just, animal in a Disney movie, and anytime since like 1990 is probably, animal that's not like actually talking is probably Frank Welker. Pegasus, Boo, I think he's, he's like so many other different Disney animals talking, for their noises. We have Rip Torn as Zeus. We have Samantha Eager as Hera. We have the Muses, which are Lilius White, Cheryl Freeman, Lashaze, Roz Ryan, and Vanessa Y. Thompson. I hope I said all this correctly. as the 5 different muses. Um, I don't think they mentioned this in the actual bonus features on the DVD that I have, but they do mention it at some point that the Spice Girls, which were really big at the time, they had been thought of to do the roles of the muses. And my answer to that is, I guess I could have, I could have seen that. I mean, they kind of wanted to do the same thing with like the Beatles as the buzzards in Jungle Book way back in the '60s. That didn't end up happening because Walt kind of nixed the idea. But then, then for this, for the Muses, they went more like with the gospel choir type thing, which I think worked out great. The Spice Girls would have been an interesting way of doing it as well, but they did it this way too. Then we have Bobcat Goldthwait and Matt Fuhr as Pain and Panic, respectively. Not too much. We have Hall Holbrook and Barbara Barry as Amphitryon and Alcmene, so Hercules' mortal parents. We have Amanda Plummer, Carol Shelley, and Patty Edwards as the three fates, as Clotho, Lachesis, and Tropos. Hopefully, I probably mispronounced those. And then we have Paul Schaefer as Hermes. And then she doesn't have she doesn't have a role in the actual movie, but she is in the animated series a lot. We have Demeter is in the animated series a lot, who's of course the goddess of the harvest and everything, who's Hercules' aunt. Hercules deals with all the gods and goddesses, most of the gods and goddesses throughout the course of the animated series. But she is voiced by the wonderful, the amazing Florence Henderson in the animated series. And throughout the course of the series, actually, I think, because then we had the animated series, which I remember watching. It was basically Hercules as a teenager. It's basically the whole training sequence, just, Hercules goes to high school and he goes to Prometheus Academy, which is a reference to, Prometheus is the Titan that stole fire and gave it to humanity, so they could start learning and everything, and gave them knowledge. And there's like lots of different references to Greek mythology. Hercules' two best friends at the school are Icarus, who's the kid that flew too close to the sun, and Cassandra, who is a psychic. She foresees prophecies and everything. She is a reference to the battle of Cassandra, who was a princess of Troy, who was cursed by Apollo with premonition, with the future sight type of thing. And like there's Adonis is there, Helen of Troy is there. There's like so many different references to like Greek mythology at this school, and it's funny. But the thing that always bugs me is, it's like I get that the series came about, a couple of years after they did the movie. Or it came out about shortly after they did the movie, so it's not quite a whole lot of 100% continuity with it. But the thing is that throughout the course of the animated series, Hercules deals with Hades a lot. I'm like, Hades knows that Hercules is alive because he deals with him a ton. So I'm like, how are you going to explain that Hades doesn't know that Hercules is alive in the movie when he, finds about him, 18 years later or whatever? I'm like, you never quite explained that. Or they might have, but I don't remember exactly because it's been a while since I've watched the animated series. I think it's on Disney Plus. It might be on Disney Plus. Again, like I think the Aladdin animated series is on there. I think the Little Mermaid animated series is on there. There's a lot of stuff that's on Disney Plus. And as I've said several times, if there's no Disney Plus promos during any of my Disney videos, I'm sorry, Disney, you're missing out on a golden opportunity for product placement. So they do that and everything. We have multiple times throughout the course of the animated series, Hercules interacts with the different gods and goddesses. We get references to other things throughout Greek mythology. Hercules, I think, does interact with Zeus and Hera a few times throughout the course of the series, and I don't remember if it actually happens in the series or not, but I think that they have a reference to like Alcmene and Amphitryon, his his adopted parents, are still there in the animated series, and I think at some point they have Zeus and Hera meet them. I would assume that that would have been something that happened. I mean, like, I don't know if they do that in, they don't do that in the animated movie. And there is a sequel movie that they made that's kind of a compilation of a couple of different of the animated series episodes at the end of the series. Um, but throughout the course of the series and the movie, we see, I think, almost every single one of his labors is referenced. Because his first labor is the Nemean lion, which we see him punch during the Hero to Zero sequence. And then we see him wearing the hide of a lion, which is Scar, later on. And then we have the Leonian Hydra, which is, of course, he fights that in the movie, of course. The one reference that I'm looking through, and I couldn't find a reference to him actually having done it in the animated series or in the movie, is Artemis's deer, the stag that she has, one of her stags, that roams free, and that Hercules at one point is supposed to catch the stag, and he doesn't kill it, but he's supposed to catch it. And that's not really referenced in anything. Artemis, I think, pops up in the series a couple of times, and her stag is with her, but that's about the closest thing we get to a reference. We have the Arimathean Boar, which is a giant pig that Hercules fights. We see that in the Hero to Zero sequence. The cleaning of the Aegean stables, which is these extremely filthy stables, is mentioned by Phil, because he's like listing off these different things that Hercules has to do, and one of them is you got to go see King Augeas. He's got a problem with his stables. That's mentioned there. The Styphilian birds is referenced in the movie. There's this giant bird that Hercules captures in the movie, in the Hero to Zero sequence. And then we have the Cretan bull, which was a bull that was on Crete, that was kind of the parent of the Minotaur. That's kind of indirectly referenced in the fact that at one point Hercules goes to Crete in the animated series and he has to fight the Minotaur. We have the mares of Diomedes, which are these insane flesh-eating horses that are just disturbing. And in the animated series, Hercules has to deal with these things at some point. At one point, one of his tasks is he has to get a girdle from Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. This is referenced in the movie again. It's something that Phil mentioned. You gotta go get a girdle from some Amazons. That's referenced there. He has to obtain cattle of the three-bodied giant Geryon, which they do a reference to this in the animated series, although they kind of mix it up a little bit. It's more like a two-headed, body combined giant thing is there. He has to steal golden apples from the Hesperides, which are they're golden apples that are like a gift to Hera at some point, and he has to have Atlas go and get them. And in the animated series, he meets Atlas. I don't remember if he actually gets the apples or not. I think so, because that's a reference to one of the tasks. And then the final task that Hercules has to perform in his, because in the actual story of Hercules, of course, Hera is not his biological mother. Alcmene is his biological mother. Zeus is a whore and likes to go after, any pretty woman that he sees, or guy in some cases. But Zeus had all these extra marital affairs, and Hera tended to punish the women, and Hercules was unfortunately the one that got the worst punishment, because when Hercules was all grown up and he was happy and he had a wife and kids in the actual story, Hera basically made him go mad, and he killed his wife and children. And yeah, you can see why they changed this a bit for the animated movie for Disney. But yeah, it makes Hercules go crazy, and he kills his wife and children, and then he does his labors, the 12 labors, 10 to 12 depending on stuff, in order to, kind of redeem himself. And it takes a long time for him to go through it, and throughout the course of the time, he has other wives and such. But the final task that Hercules has to do is he has to go and bring back Cerberus from the underworld. This is referenced in the fact that in the movie, of course, Hercules goes to the underworld to get Meg's soul, and he ends up, riding Cerberus into Hades' kind of castle, which is that reference there. Which, I always looked at Cerberus as okay, I get that it's a big, fierce dog, but it probably is just really lonely and wants to be played with and petted and given some attention. It's a guard dog, but it's like always hungry, and it's like, well, if you feed it better and if you give it attention, it would probably be happier. So I've read the Percy Jackson book series. I know that Annabeth kind of does that to, I think, Cerberus or one of the Hellhounds at some point. So it's, yeah, I kind of always had that thought anyway. But yeah, I agree with that for the Percy Jackson and the Olympian stories. I like those a little bit closer to the actual mythology and what happens with those. But the Hercules, the animated one, is still kind of fun. We have all the music and everything, which was written by Alan Menken and David Zippel, and we have all those fun songs. The end credit version of "Go the Distance" is sung by Michael Bolton, so that's fun. Um, yeah, we had the series, and then there was the sequel movie that they had, which was Hercules Hero to Zero, or sorry, Zero to Hero, which is kind of it came out in 1999. It's a compilation of a couple of different the animated series episodes. It takes place after the original movie, but it's kind of a flashback story where they have Hercules and Meg who are moving in together. They're now married and they're moving in together, and she finds like this his high school yearbook from Prometheus Academy, and he's telling her stories, and so she kind of learns that he was a dweeb, kind of a dweeb, in high school and everything. And one of the storylines that I don't remember if this is in the actual movie or this is just something that they put in into the animated series at some point. They do actually have Meg show up in the animated series when she's a teenager. We have her show up there, and Hercules actually has to help her get something from the underworld because this is after she I don't remember if this was before or after she made the deal with Hades to sell her soul to him to save her boyfriend's life, but she had gotten a broken heart from this guy and she wanted to forget about him. And in the underworld, there is a river that if you drink the water from it, then you forget, certain memories. Depending on how much water you drink from it, you forget a certain amount of time. And, so Hercules helps Meg do this, and he's kind of smitten with her anyway as a teenager. And I think they brought Susan Egan back to play her. And I think James Woods played, I think, or Hades all the way through the animated series anyway. So that was fun. He did a good job as Hades. But like they work their way through that. Like Hercules helps Meg get the water, and then they both, I don't remember if it's they both drink it or they both get it spilled on them, so they both kind of forget about each other. So that way, when they meet up in the movie, it's still continuity for that. But we did, all that fun stuff happens in the animated series. There's a lot of references there to other Greek mythology and other gods and goddesses and heroes that pop up in the series, and that's just fun. We have House of Mouse, Hercules, Hercules. I think Zeus may have appeared in House of Mouse. Hermes does. Hades does multiple times. As I mentioned back in the Maleficent video, Hades kind of wanted to go on a date with Maleficent, and everything happened with that, and they did end up going on a date, which I guess I could kind of segue into the Descendants information, because in Descendants, Hades is Mal's father, and we find this out in the third movie, and he tried to escape the Isle of the Lost at the beginning of the movie, and then they had to go and Mal has to go and kind of confront her father and kind of come to terms with make the two of them come to terms with the fact of, yeah, I'm your father, and that it is kind of proven that he does love her, because she finds out that he kept asking about her when she was growing up and everything to find out more information about her, because he wanted to know how she was doing. And he helped save Aubrey when she was almost dead. He helped save her because it was kind of a favor to Mal. And at the end of the movie, they are reunited, and he gets to they get to have like an actual father-daughter relationship. Which, if you want more information on that, go back and rewatch the Sleeping Beauty Part 2 episode or video where I talk about, Mal and Hades and that. House of Mouse, they do that. Then we get into Kingdom Hearts. Hercules is actually throughout a good portion of Kingdom Hearts. They're introduced in the first game of Kingdom Hearts, and we have Sora, Donald, and Goofy land in the Olympus area, or the Greece, Thebes area. and they end up entering into this hero tournament because they talk to Phil, and he's like, well, I can turn you into real heroes, but you got to deal with this tournament, and then you got to fight Hercules, and you got to deal with all this stuff. And they're like, okay, well, we can do that and everything. So they train their way to be heroes in the tournament. It's just like a level thing to, you can repeatedly do it again and again and again. You fight more Heartless and everything in the Coliseum, and you make your way through the ranks. And then you have to fight Cloud Strife from, from Final Fantasy, because Hades wanted Cloud to try to kill Hercules for reasons, because Hades is a jerk and he used Cloud. And you have to fight Cloud Strife, which is kind of a hard battle. And I'm pretty sure, I think the first time that I was playing through the game, I lost probably like three times in a row to Cloud, before I finally beat him, because he's not a fun thing to beat, but you can beat him. And then you fight your way through the Heartless, and then you have to fight Cerberus at one point. And then like your final round is you have to fight Hercules. But it's not like a violent battle. It's just you have to weaken him and everything and knock him down and blah 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 blah. They do that. Meg is in the original game. Phil is in the original game. Pegasus is in the original game. Hades is in the original game. And then we get they pop up in like Kingdom Hearts Recoded, I think, and Kingdom Hearts, some of the other stuff. But then we get Kingdom Hearts. What was it? It's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, where we go back and we actually get to see Hercules as a kid, and he interacts with Sora, Ventus, and Aqua, or not Sora, Ventus, and Aqua, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua. He interacts with them, and we actually get to see him interact with a young Zack. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like a Zack from Final Fantasy. Just Zack. He's just Zack from Final Fantasy. Interacts with him, and Hercules and Zack kind of have like a fun little rivalry that they deal with in Birth by Sleep, and that's fun. And so we deal with that and everything. And Hades is still there causing problems and everything, and I think Zack ends up getting possessed at some point, and then you still have to fight him and save him, and he's still determined to become a real hero. And then of course we have Kingdom Hearts 3, which is the final game in the series. No, it's not the final game in the series so far, but when we have Kingdom Hearts 3, which you get to run through Thebes, and you get to run around like in the Greek countryside, and you get to run up Mount Olympus, and then you get to run around Mount Olympus, and you have Hercules there, and it's beautiful animation. You have Meg, you have Phil, you have Hades, you have Pegasus, you have Pain and Panic there that you have to deal with. In I think it's Kingdom Hearts 2, you actually go to the underground, and you have to do like an underworld version of like the same type of tournament that you had to do in the first game, only you're fighting against all these horrible things in the underworld, and you run through the underworld. And it's just a fun way of doing it, because it's just so much fun running around in those areas. And I adore it. I love it. And like you have Hercules as a party member in Kingdom Hearts 3 at various points in time. And as I said, you get to run around Olympus, and there's different things you have to do on Olympus. And that's just fun. I already mentioned Descendants with Mal and Hades there. And then we have Once Upon a Time, which is I think the last bit that I had to talk about. The main character that we interact with from Hercules and Once Upon a Time is actually Hades. He is, because at one point they have to go to the underworld, Underbrook as it's referred to as, because they want to get Hook dies because of reasons, and Emma and Snow and David and I think Rumpel, I don't remember if Regina is part of the original crew or if Regina just ends up there, because there's a lot of things that get resolved in the underworld, in Underbrook, but they go to Underbrook, to Hell, to the realm of the dead, where they end up meeting all these other people that they've interacted with over the years that are all died, former villains, former friends, and we meet Hades, and we actually find out that Hades has a past with Regina's half-sister Zelena, and that they were actually in love. And we do a lot with that. We get to learn a lot about that past, of kind of how they fell in love, which way back in the first Disney video that I did, I talked about the Persephone, the goddess of the spring, animated thing that was like one of the first live action with color, or not live action, but animated with sound, with color, with like a human, as the main, human type as the main character and such. I talked about way back in Snow White. That character is, of course, Persephone, who is in actual Greek and Roman mythology. Persephone is the bride of Hades, of Pluto. And we kind of see that depicted in the animated short, her being taken down to the underworld and made into Pluto's bride. But in the animated series, in the actual Disney version of Hercules, Persephone doesn't really appear. They had like storylines prepared for her, but they didn't do anything with it. But she's, so we have that. But Zelina is in, Once Upon a Time is the reference to that, because Hades and her fall in love. And, Zelina didn't really have a whole lot of love in her life and everything, and we learn that about her, but, she had Hades, and being down in the underworld kind of helps, Regina and Zelina kind of finally gain closure on, their mother, on Cora, and, Regina's father, Henry. The four of them kind of gain closure, which is nice. But Hades tries to make a deal with Rumpelstiltskin, force a deal, and Hades is the one that kills Robin Hood, that Regina is in love with. And and I think Rumpel, I don't remember if it's Rumpel or Zelina is the one that actually ends up killing Hades, because like Hades tries to attack Regina, or it's just Rumpel just kills him because, hey, you came into my kingdom because Storybrooke is mine, and you came in here, you tried to cause problems, I'm gonna kill you now because you're a threat to me. But we do that, and Hades dies, and Zelina is still heartbroken, but Zelina and Regina are able to heal together and become closer. But then we have because Robin died, but he wasn't able to be kind of saved because of how he died. But we have Regina, or not Regina, but we have, because they originally go to the underworld to try to save Captain Hook, try to save Hook, Killian, whatever you want to call him, and he ends up kind of sacrificing himself to allow Emma and the others the ability to defeat Hades in Storybrooke. And he is then Hook is then kind of resurrected, given a second chance at life via Zeus, because he saved, he sacrificed stuff to save it. And I do think that I'm pretty sure that Hook does find out that like Robin didn't get to have the same ability or the same option, and I think that Hook and Emma do feel sorry for Regina, and the fact that it's like they get their happy ending in this case, because as I said, Emma and Hook get married, but Regina didn't end up getting to have her happy ending with Robin, and was denied her happy ending a lot, which ties into that. And then we get where we actually deal with Hercules in Once Upon a Time. It was supposed to be that, Hercules, we get a flashback, and we get to meet a young Hercules with Snow White, with the young Snow White. And we find out that he's the one that actually taught her how to use a bow and arrow, and kind of decided to train her to become a hero. This is when she's still young, and it's it's after Regina is her stepmother, but it's long before, it's a while before she has to before Regina kills Snow's mother. But like, so Snow and Hercules are friends, and he explains, well, like, I'm trying to do all these 12 tasks and collect these different labors and everything, and she helps him with some of it. And then we find out about Megara. He met Meg, and they were being chased by Cerberus, and what ended up happening is Hercules ends up dying, being killed by Cerberus, and then Meg unfortunately ends up being killed by Cerberus, and then they are both in the Underbrook, in the underworld, and Snow kind of helps them, I think, find each other, and they are able to You know, I think they do finally defeat Cerberus in the underworld. So I'm like, Cerberus is a dog. He's a dog that needs love. Don't hurt the puppy. But you know, but you know, Hercules and Meg are reunited in the underworld, and they are then able to, after Hercules, you know, after they finish what they had been trying to do, you know, they are able to then go to um, Olympus. They are, you know, they're, you know, because in Once Upon a Time, it's, you know, you die and then you go to the Underbrook, and then once you're ready to move on, you finish whatever unfinished business you have, if possible. Then you can either, you know, there's either the go down because you were very bad and you go to, you know, Tartarus or so where you're going to get punished, or you can go up and you go to Olympus, Elysian, whatever it's referred to as, where it's, you know, where the good ones go. And Hercules and Meg get to go there, and there's a few other ones that we see that gets to go there. Cora gets to go there. Regina's father Henry gets to go there. Cora gets to go there because she finally redeems herself, is what happens with Cora. I think I mentioned that in the Alice in Wonderland video, but Cora gets to go there because she redeems herself, and helps fix things better between Regina and Zelina. But like, so that gets resolved. Belle and Rumpel are, you know, on Olympus and Elysian, wherever you want to refer to it, they're there. As I mentioned at the end of the Beauty and the Beast video, you know, Rumpel sacrificed himself. He'd redeemed himself. You know, throughout the course of the series, we see Rumpel redeem himself, and he does. And, you know, he, you know, is, you know, able to rest with Belle now. They're reunited. So we get a lot of that. You know, we finally get we see Meg and Hercules there and everything, and Hades is there, and Hades does have it where he his hair sets on fire, which I find funny anyway. And I was like, I really hope they do that in Once Upon a Time, and they did. So I'm like, okay, that works. They do that in Descendants as well, but I was like glad that they did it in Once Upon a Time. You know, that's what we got there. You know, there's a lot of differences between the original mythology of Hercules and the Disney animated movie and the Disney animated series. I would say that Once Upon a Time probably got a little closer to certain things, but not quite exactly what happens in the actual myths, because there's a lot that happens in the myths, considering the fact that, you know, Hera is actually Zeus's sister, and then they have a daughter that is named, I think it's a Hebe, who is like the goddess of youth, who like is in charge of like keeping the nectar of the gods, which they drink to, well, enjoy, but it's like if immortal drinks it, then they become immortal type thing. And, you know, when Hercules finally completes all of his tasks, the end of Hercules in the actual story is he completes all of his tasks, and then he builds this giant pyre, and he burns himself on the pyre because he completed all of his tasks. He's redeemed himself, supposedly. You know, he has nothing left to live for on Earth, so he, you know, builds up this fire, and then throws himself on it and dies that way. But it's, you know, because he's half god, half human, you know, his mortal soul, you know, kind of goes to wait in the underworld until, you know, wait in the hero part of underworld, the Elysian, I think is what it is. I think that is one. It's like the Fields of Plenty or whatever it is, where, you know, where the heroes reside and the good people, the very good people reside. That's where, you know, that's where half of Hercules' soul, they're waiting for the other half, and then the god half went up to Olympus, and he is made a full god. And Hera, I guess at this point in time, is just like, fine, I made you kill your own wife and children. You did all of this other stuff. You beat all these freaking tasks that I sent for you to do. I did all this other stuff. I put more obstacles in your way than was absolutely necessary just because whatever reason. And, you know, blah, 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 blah. And fine, you can come here. You can be here. I'll put up with you. I gotta deal with all of Zeus's other illegitimate children. You know, I gotta deal with all the other illegitimate children. You're at least one that has, you know, kind of proved yourself a bit, and you're named after me, but that's still annoying. You know, I was like, I just, you know, picture Hera just like having a conniption fit, and then she's finally like, fine. Okay, yeah, sure, fine. Come here, come to Olympus. I got this daughter of mine. She's technically your half-sister, but we're gods, and that doesn't matter to us. So take your half-sister, take Hebe. She's going to be your new wife now, blah, 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 blah. You're now this god. Take Hebe, go do this. It's just like, I just look at that, and I'm just like, Greek mythology always confused me. I love it, but I'm like, I look at the family trees, and I'm like, so this person's sister is also their daughter, but also their wife, but this did this, and that one, and these two are siblings, but they had kids, and this one killed their own father, and then his own son killed him, and oh god, it's so confusing. Oh god, it's confusing in regards to Greek mythology. Egyptian mythology is kind of the same way too, because it's like they're siblings that marry each other, but they kind of state in mythology of that type of stuff that it's okay, they're gods, it's allowed, they're titans, they're gods, it's allowed. I mean, like in mythology, Hades marries his own freaking niece. So, yeah, that. I do like Hercules. It's a good. I'm pretty sure that Hercules, the animated movie that Disney did, is the reason that I did get into Greek mythology later on. I'm pretty sure that is why I did, because there was that spark there that came with it, and now I have like a whole section on my bookshelves that are like full of like mythology books and everything, not just Greek mythology and Roman mythology, but Egyptian mythology and Norse mythology and all this other stuff. And it's just like, yeah, there was this and that and this and that, but that's what we get there. That's what we get for Hercules. I went off on a tangent there at the end, sorry, but yeah, that's what we get for Hercules. Next up is Mulan, which is definitely going to be a two-parter between the original animated movie, the sequel, the Kingdom Hearts stuff, the House of Mouse stuff, the live-action remake that they just did, the Once Upon a Time stuff, the Descendant stuff. That's going to be a two-part video in and of itself, because this is almost at an hour and a half with me recording, and it'll get slightly snipped as I edit. So that's what we got. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. For a true hero is not measured by the size of his strength, but by the strength of his heart.